I want you to picture a man named Tom. Tom is 45. And tonight, like a lot of nights lately, Tom is lying awake at 3 a.m. doing the math. Not dramatic math, just the quiet kind. The kind where you add up what you have, subtract what you'll need, and notice the gap is bigger than it should be for a guy who's worked hard for 20 years and never did anything reckless. And here's the strange thing about Tom tonight. As he lies there, he can almost see two other versions of himself in the room. Tom at 25 and Tom at 35. Both of them younger, both of them with more hair, and both of them with more hair, and both of them, this is the part that stings, both of them holding something that the 45-year-old Tom would give almost anything to have back. They're holding time, fistfuls of it. And neither of them has any idea what it's worth. Tom at 25 is leaning against the wall, relaxed, because Tom at 25 is relaxed about everything. Tom at 35 is checking his phone, busy, because Tom at 35 was always busy. And Tom at 45 wants to grab both of them by the collar and scream one sentence. We'll get to the sentence. Because tonight's video is about the strangest invisible bill of them all. The other bills we've talked about, you pay with money. This one, you pay with time. And it's the only bill in your entire life where paying it late doesn't cost you a late fee. It costs you the entire thing. Because the product it's billing you for stopped being available the moment you decided to wait. I'm Benjamin Hayes. This is Money with Benjamin. And tonight we're talking about the cheapest decision you will ever have the chance to make, and why almost nobody makes it while it's still cheap. Tom at 25. The one who has everything and knows nothing. Let's start with the kid. Tom at 25. Tom at 25 is doing fine. Not rich, but fine. He's got a job, an apartment, friends, a weekend. He has, by any reasonable measure, the single most valuable financial asset a human being can possess. He has 40 years. 40 years is not a number to Tom at 25. It's just the future. A vague, foggy place where he'll deal with all the boring stuff later. Retirement is a word that belongs to his parents, to gray hair, to a version of himself so distant it might as well be a stranger. Why would he send money to a stranger? So here's what Tom at 25 does with his 40 years. Nothing. Not maliciously. Not stupidly. He just waits. He figures he'll start when he's making more, when he's more settled, when he has it figured out. All of which sound like responsible conditions, and all of which are actually just the word later wearing a nicer outfit. And here's what neither Tom nor almost anyone at 25 understands. The 40 years aren't valuable because they're long. They're valuable because they're first. The dollars you invest at 25 aren't worth the same as dollars you invest at 45. They're worth dramatically more, not because they're bigger, but because they have time to do the one thing money does best when you leave it alone. Make more of itself, over and over, on a curve that barely moves for years, and then goes nearly vertical right at the end. A dollar at 25 has 40 years to compound. A dollar at 45 has 20. That's not half as good. Because of how compounding backloads itself, that's something closer to 6 times as good. The first dollars you ever invest end up doing more heavy lifting than all the dollars you invest in your 40s and 50s combined. Tom at 25 is holding the most powerful dollars he will ever own in his life. And he's going to spend the next 10 years not using a single one of them because they don't feel powerful. They feel small. And small things don't feel urgent. That's the first face of this bill. The most valuable time you'll ever have is the time that feels like you have the most to spare. I was this exact kid. I'm not going to pretend I was wise at 25. At 25, I thought compound interest was a thing that happened to other people, like gout or jury duty. D nahistom than azonix. Har artiori than janixes. I can cast morvenas pededir. The binding she's with your. A leak via against. a circus, a tricks. Tom at 35, the one who finally starts, and thinks that's the same as starting on time. Now Tom at 35, and Tom at 35 has good news. He finally started. Somewhere around 33, 34, it clicked. Maybe a friend mentioned their retirement account. Maybe he read something. Maybe he just got scared in a healthy way. Whatever it was, Tom at 35 set up the account, automated the contributions, and started doing the thing. Genuinely. Consistently. And Tom at 35 feels great about this. He feels responsible. He feels caught up. He tells himself, okay, I started a little late, but I'm in now. I've got 30 years, I'm fine. And here's where I have to be the bearer of slightly uncomfortable news, the way Benjamin Hayes tends to be. Tom at 35 did a genuinely good thing. Starting at 35 is enormously better than starting at 45. I'm not here to take that away from him. But Tom at 35 is making a quiet error in how he's keeping score. He thinks the cost of waiting from 25 to 35 was 10 years of contributions, the money he didn't put in. That's what he thinks he missed. That's not what he missed. What he missed wasn't the 10 years of deposits. It was the 10 years of growth on top of those deposits, plus the growth on that growth, running all the way to retirement. The deposits he skipped in his 20s were small. But those small deposits would have had the longest runway of his entire life to compound. They were the seeds that had the most time to become trees. And he didn't plant them. So Tom at 35 isn't 10 years behind. In terms of final outcome, he's something more like a third of the way behind, on the most valuable third. He just can't see it, because the gap doesn't show up today. It shows up at 65 quietly, as a number that's smaller than it should be. And by then there's no way to go back and replant a seed in soil that no longer exists. That's the cruelest mechanic of this particular bill. You don't feel it when you incur it, and you can't undo it when you finally see it. The window doesn't reopen. Tom at 35 closed a door he didn't even hear shut. The second face of the bill. Starting late isn't a smaller version of starting on time. It's a different outcome entirely. And the difference is hidden until it's permanent. Tom at 45, the one who can finally see it, and can't unsee it. And now the man lying awake. Tom at 45. Tom at 45 can finally see the whole thing clearly, with the awful clarity that only arrives once it's too late to be useful. He understands compounding now. He understands time now. He understands exactly what those two younger versions of himself were holding and didn't value. And here's the trap he's in tonight, the one keeping him up. Tom at 45 is doing the worst possible thing he can do with this realization. He's using it to beat himself up, and only to beat himself up. He's lying there running the numbers on the wealth he'd have if he'd started at 25, and the number is large, and it hurts, and that pain feels almost productive. Like punishment is the same thing as progress. It isn't. Because here's what Tom at 45 is missing while he marinates in regret about 25. He's 45. He has another version of himself in the room that he's completely ignoring. Tom at 65. And Tom at 65 is sitting in the corner, quietly, holding 20 years. 20 years that, right now, tonight, are worth more than anything the 35-year-old had, because the 35-year-old's 20 years ago is gone, and the 45-year-old's 20 years from now is still here. Tom at 45 still has the second best time he'll ever have. The best time was 25, and that's gone. But the second best time isn't 35, that's also gone. The second best time is right now, tonight, at 45, at 3 a.m., feeling sorry for himself. It is the most valuable time he will ever have again, and he is currently spending it on regret. This is the part almost everyone gets wrong about this bill. They think the lesson of you should have started at 25 inches is a lesson about the past. It isn't. It's a lesson about the fact that every single day, The dollar in your hand is the most powerful it will ever be, because it has the most time it will ever have. That was true at 25. It was true at 35. It is true tonight at 45. It will be true at 55. The cheapest day to start was a long time ago. The second cheapest day is always today. The sentencee. So, remember the sentence. The one Tom at 45 wanted to grab his younger selves and scream. You probably think it's start earlier. That's the obvious one. But that's not the sentence, because start earlier is useless. It's advice aimed at a past that doesn't take requests. Here's the actual sentence. The one that works at any age, that the 25-year-old needed, and the 35-year-old needed, and the 45-year-old lying awake right now still needs. The time you're standing in is the cheapest it will ever be. Stop waiting for it to feel valuable, because it will never feel valuable until it's gone. That's the whole thing. The reason this bill catches everyone is that time is the one asset that feels worthless precisely when it's worth the most, and feels precious only once it's spent. At 25 you feel rich in time, so you waste it. At 65 you feel poor in time, so you finally respect it. And respecting it at 65 is like learning to swim the day after the flood. I'm not going to tell you what to invest in. You know by now that's not what I do here. But I'll tell you the one thing this video is actually about, underneath the compounding and the curves and poor sleepless Tom. The most expensive words in your entire financial life are not "I lost money." Plenty of people lose money and recover. The most expensive words are "I'll start later." Because later isn't a time. Later is a place where money goes to not grow. And every year you leave it there, the bill gets bigger and quieter and harder to ever pay back, until one night, around 3 a.m., it finally introduces itself, and by then it's not asking for a payment. It's just reading you the total. So here's your question. And this is the one I'd actually answer tonight, not next time. Because this is the one bill where next time is the entire problem. What are you waiting to start, that the version of you 10 years from now is going to lie awake wishing you'd started today? You already know the answer. You knew it before I asked. That's the part that should get you out of bed. The money bills you can pay late. The time bill, you can only pay early. And early is the only price it ever offers. I'm Benjamin Hayes. This was Money with Benjamin. Next time, we're stepping back from the individual bills to look at something bigger. The one invisible bill that the people around you, the ones you love and trust most, quietly hand you without either of you ever realizing it's happening. That one's uncomfortable. I'll see you there.